So all over the Wuthering Waves community, whether it's from fans or from haters of the game, I see this kind of same comment and idea, this suggestion that we need more 4-star weapons in the game. And it's gotten so bad that people are not only saying that the systems in games like Zenless Zone Zero and Genshin Impact are better because they have more 4-star weapons, but that Wuthering Waves weapon spanners are actually greedy by comparison. So we're going to break down the costs of the weapons in these games to show that not only does Wuthering Waves system give a lot more for the same cost, but there's no room for adding a bunch of 4 stars as a result. It's the best weapon system of the big 4, and it's not even close, mathematically. So let's talk about it. See, the 4-star systems in the Hoyo games work well because at R5, these weapons are almost as strong as the standard or limited 5-star options. Sometimes they're the best in slot options, especially for supports. And they're on average much less expensive than getting a R1 limited 5-star in those games. So when you look at the tier list, or if you're crafting data, it's going to scale the 4-star weapons at R5 for comparison against an R1 limited 5-star weapon and R1 standard 5-star weapon. And with pretty good luck, that R5 4-star weapon is going to cost you about 50 to 80 pulls to acquire. And that's compared to up to 160 pulls for the limited 5-star. So if you recognize that an R5 4-star weapon costs between 50 and 80 pulls with pretty good RNG, you're probably already seeing the problem. So even if it somehow is in the meta at R1, it's still not entirely unreasonable to spend up to 50 pulls trying to get one 4-star weapon. Possibly more. Now in Wuthering Waves, the strongest weapons in the entire game are the limited 5-star weapons, and they will cost you, on average, between 50 and 73 pulls. 73 pulls being the worst case scenario, hard pity. So for an average of 50 pulls, the strongest weapons in the game, which offer very significant power boosts over just the character alone, they're usable on many different characters, and they're shareable during the endgame. Now, you have some 4 stars, of course, like in Zenless Zone Zero, or probably the other games as well, that are craftable. And so these are otherwise considered completely free weapons because they don't cost any limited pulls, which is great. Still, though, the standard 5-star weapons in Wuthering Waves all have the main priority stats: attack, crit, energy regen. And they're farmable because the banner is selectable, guaranteed. It doesn't use limited currency at all, and players receive, on average, 20 to 35 standard pulls every patch. And because of the way the echo system works, you can adjust your echo build to account for the priority stat that you might not have on your standard 5-star weapon, like in the case of Cardathea or Greatsword users. So that leads us to the other supposed heresy of 5-star weapons being too strong. So again, if a really strong 4-star weapon for 50 to 80 pulls is a good thing, if it's a great thing even, then how could a really strong 5-star weapon for the same cost, or potentially reasonably less, be a bad thing? In fact, it's better for at least 2 reasons. See, for one, the power you gain from adding a limited 5-star weapon to a character is comparable to the other ways you could have spent the same amount of currency, either by getting a dupe or getting a premium teammate, because that's a similar cost. Now, I saw someone in the comments on the video that was complaining about Wuthering Waves weapons, and this person was bragging that apparently the new limited 5-star Wenjin in Zenless Zone Zero only gave a 2.5% power increase over the free option. Now, I hope that they were exaggerating or just way off base, because that's terrible. That's kind of a scam. So I'm going to assume that they were wrong. The point is, either way, if the difference between the free option and the option that you pay 160 pulls for is only 2.5% more power, then the game's kind of just baiting someone out of their pulls if that person is unfortunate enough not to look it up and realize how little they're actually getting for 160 pulls, potentially. because those are not going to keep that character above the power scaling for very long at all. That's the opposite of free-to-play friendly. See, powerful weapon options stop you from having to pull the new character just to keep up with the game. So having more options to gain that power besides just getting the newest character, it's a good thing. It's a great thing. And you're not taking a massive L by getting a weapon that you like, as opposed to getting a new character. And the second part of what makes this better is that, unlike spending 50 to 80 pulls to reach the maximum potential of a weapon in the case of a 4-star, well, I have to hope that they release another weapon so I can continue using that character, or they're going to fall behind the scaling because I have nowhere else to invest my resources into them. But in contrast, if you get an R1 5-star weapon, you have a lot more room to invest in that same weapon, continue to play that same character for a longer period of time, if that's what you choose to do with your resources, if that's the way you want to build your account. But having that option, having the variety of ways that you can invest your free-to-play resources into specific characters gives you more control over who you choose to play and for how long. Now, for more on that, I'll link the video where I explain that in detail below, but the variety is definitely preferred compared to every account pretty much needing the same characters and teams just to meet the power floor. It's also better for the developers and the players because people want the premium weapon that matches their character. It shouldn't be a luxury thing. Now, players are consistently willing to pay the cost for the 4-star weapons. So it's like the devs thought, well, why don't we just give them the weapon that they want for the price that they're willing to pay? And then we won't have to make and balance a whole bunch of substitute weapons that people only would want because it was of a lower cost. To me, that's genius, and I agree with the system. So that really is it. It's objectively better to get more of what you need for less. It's better to have a variety of ways to invest your free-to-play resources to get the power that you need so that you can choose the way that you want to build your account without being as bound by a meta. I love this part of Wuthering Waves systems. It doesn't mean that the other systems don't work. I also love Zen Zone Zero, and its systems overall I think work really well, and they're very different from Wuthering Waves. The gameplay is different. Zen Zone Zero to me is objectively more strategic and tactical. You really need to know the right equipment, the right team, the right tactic for approaching a fight a lot more than you do in Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves is brain dead as far as the strategy. It's entirely reflex, pattern recognition, don't get hit the enemy. If you did those two things, you won. You don't have to figure out, oh, it's in this phase and it's going to do this thing. And, except for that, the one robot that puts up the ice shield, that's pretty much the only time you need to actually think of the tactic. Besides, I didn't get hit and I hit the enemy. And I love that because honestly, I don't want to spend a lot of time out of the game looking up why my damage isn't working and which calculation is going to make the damage work. It's just a different approach. And I think it's great that you have both. I like both. I just don't have as much time for the for the second one because it takes me out of the game a lot. And so Wuthering Waves streamlined into what I want to focus on, which is my reflexes, pattern recognition, and mechanical execution. But because of those differences, how Zen Zone Zero does its weapons and team building, it might work fine for it. That system won't convert to Wuthering Waves 1-to-1, especially because of the difference in the gacha. There's no space for 4-star weapons that would effectively cost the same as 5-star weapons. How would you get them? The 80 pity guarantee changed the entire system in that way, so you have to pay attention to how it really works when you have a limited 4-star weapon in a gacha. What's the actual cost? Every time you tried to get one in Wuthering Waves, you pretty much end up getting a limited 5-star and you'd have a useless weapon on your hands. On top of that, when you have completely free and selectable 5-star standards that are of course going to scale higher than even a limited 4-star weapon, there's just no other need for any other type of gacha weapon. Now, there's an argument to be made for more craftable weapons, but those weapons would have to scale at the 5-star standard weapon scaling, or even just to add more 5-star standard weapons in general. That's another option, but there's just no need for more 4-stars. It doesn't just work just because it happened to work in the Hoyo games. So Wuthering Waves has the best weapon system for power to cost ratio in the big four, and it's not even close. There's other things that need improvement in the game. Absolutely. There's other things I think are objectively better in Zenless Zone Zero. It's just the weapon system is not it. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. It's a tough space right now because in the WuWa community, any critical feedback is kind of assumed to be good feedback because you have this instant defense of if anyone contradicts it, you can just say that they're a bot that can't handle criticism, which is unfortunate because there are a lot of robots out there that can't handle criticism to support that argument. So it's really important to make counter arguments instead of defenses. You defend something by excusing it for some reason, like, well, they have to make money, or other games do it, or it's better than this game. Yeah, well, those are all terrible responses because they don't actually refute the problem. They don't actually counter the evidence. But if you make a counter argument, you point out the flaws, logical area, the mathematical area, like this 4-star idea, then it at least has a better chance of people being able to recognize it and finding ideas that genuinely can improve the game, instead of just giving a pass to every potentially ridiculous idea. It kind of threatens to actively make the game worse. Like, this would be an active waste of time if they spent a whole bunch of time making 4-star weapons that would actively take away development time from something that we would much rather have them doing. It's difficult, but you can call out the terrible taste. It's worth a shot. So thanks for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.